Tier 4, just below the surface. Entry 80, Valve adds new maps only through Workshop. Although there are different sites and ways that you can play and create custom maps, they're created by fans. But the most trustworthy source appears to be Workshop on Steam, which you can subscribe to and play smoothly. This also appears as the only place where Valve themselves release new maps for their games. Entry 81, Medieval Mode. This is referring to many downloadable mods that exist on the Steam Workshop. The description is a collection of mods that allows you to go through all medieval on their zombie asses, or orcs, trolls, and whatever. This collection features mods that replace items, enemies, survivors, weapons, and adds some survival maps. None of the mods, however, conflict with each other. It is not just for Left 4 Dead, but other games as well. So if you feel like putting a fantasy twist on zombie or action games, this collection is for you. Entry 82, Lewis is a drug addict. This is referring to a theory that Lewis is a drug addict, more specifically, a pill popper. It describes how, out of all the survivors, he seems the most excited when he finds pills, and the fact that he worked in an office and was once in a foreign exchange program in Japan, which are stereotyped as being super stressful and unfulfilling. Thus, many of the workers use pills to concentrate, and the students use pills or caffeine drinks to stay up for all-nighters. Entry 83. Ammo piles are pocket dimensions. This theory might explain why the ammo piles that are found throughout the levels are bottomless, and you can pick up however much ammo you want, without it ever running out. Maybe everything happening, like the bottomless ammo piles, the health items, random guns, and other things found throughout the campaigns are divine intervention. Perhaps the survivors are the chosen ones to save humanity. Entry 84. Coach is secretly working with the military. This theory details how Coach may secretly be a part of the military. This might be a reason why his real name is never revealed to the players or the fellow survivors, why he takes on the leader role of the group, and why he's so critical and angry with Sita. Remember, Sita failed their duties, so the military had to take over their operations, and why he views the military with such high regards, and as the only way that they can truly be saved. He even is in denial about the harsh and rash treatment of people by the military, when their actions are revealed in the parish. It's known that they're the most likely suspects that were responsible for the deaths of all the people who were carriers just before the tower and bus station in the park stage. Coach is in denial that the military would do such a thing. Another thing is how the military began bombing New Orleans and gave up on looking for or waiting for survivors. This dampens Coach's trust of them, but he still leads the group to them anyways. Entry 85 takes place on Mars? What? I've searched for any piece of information about this, and I didn't find a thing. I mean, what easily disproves this is the locations and references to places on Earth and in the United States. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I have absolutely no idea what this entry could be referring to. Entry 86, The Passing Secrets. There are a couple secrets and unique dialogue in the Passing campaign. There are way too many to list here, but a couple notable ones are listed here. From Ellis and Zoe falling in love, Rochelle and Francis falling in love, the Witch Bride, Coach's possible real name being said by Rochelle, the Midnight Riders tour bus passing by near the bar, you can see it if you get there in time, the Midnight Riders' unique song, Save Me Some Sugar, This Won't Take Long, that only plays on this level, Bill's body in the machine room, near the supplies in the harbor finale, and there's so much more. I recommend playing it and exploring it for yourself to get the full experience. Entry 87, Male Witch. We already know that the witch can only be female, along with most of other special infected, with the only exception being the Boomer, whose female version was introduced and appeared alongside the original male version in Left 4 Dead 2. I believe this entry is referring to the Screamer, a scrap special infected who acted similarly to the witch. He would be calm and wander around until he was disturbed by the survivors, and upon doing so, he would scream and run away, calling a horde of zombies to attack. This was deemed too annoying by beta testers to be dealt with, so his disturbing and yelling mechanic was reworked into the witch we know today. Interestingly, the sound of his screams was given to the hunter. Entry 88, Cabin in the Woods Connection. Left 4 Dead came out before the movie Cabin in the Woods, but the movie does indeed reference a game. Inside the underground complex, which houses many different monsters and villains from various horror media, the witch, Boomer, and Tank can be seen in one of the glass cells. According to the movie's Wikipedia page, a tie-in of the film with the video game Left 4 Dead 2 had been planned, with the game seeing downloadable content based on the movie's settings. However, due to MGM's financial problems, the game content was cancelled, but Valve allowed the studio to use monsters from Left 4 Dead 2 to populate the monster cells at the end of the film. Also in the Death Toll campaign of the first game, the survivors come up to a cabin in the woods just before they reach the church in Riverside. Zoe might say, "Ah, sweet, a cabin in the middle of the nowhere. I know how this movie ends." Entry 89, No Mercy Heist. This is referring to a heist campaign in the game called Payday, which takes place in the Mercy Hospital of the first Left 4 Dead game and level. It is exclusive to the PC version of the game. The rundown is that they must find a patient who is infected with the green flu and take blood samples from him. Plan A is they take out the cameras and try not to trip the alarm, while also getting to the alarm box and to cut the wires to disarm it. If they do, Plan B will be enacted, and a horde of zombies will be called, making the heist significantly harder. There is a random chance that just before the heist begins, Bill from Left 4 Dead in regular clothes will enter the elevator. The patient that you need the blood sample from will cough and sound like the smoker, and even the witch has a chance to appear at the reception desk. Entry 90, Cut Rochelle Lines. Many of Rochelle's unique dialogue is missing for some reason in the game. Some of it can be restored with the passing in Left 4 Dead 1 DLCs, and even more so in the PC version with mods, but even then, she still talks significantly less compared to the others. It's not known why this was done, and I think it contributed to the Rochelle hate train when this game came out, because she hardly ever talked, so people considered her to be boring. Entry 91, Midnight Rider's Website. There is actually a Midnight Rider's website that tells visitors all about the members, songs, fictional tours, albums, and even a blog and merch store. The blog was last updated on October 8th, 2009. It reads, "Green Flu Don't Stop the Effin' Riders," posted by Jake at 7:04 a.m. You might have heard about a lot of bands canceling their tours this week because of all the airports shutting down and the government telling people to stay indoors. To that, the writers say, "We'll stop touring when we stop breathing. What America needs most right now in its time of trial is music, and that is one thing the writers are proud to provide. The airports shutting down don't confront us none. We don't tour in a fancy plane, just the old dependable writer's tour bus. And I could tell y'all some stories of what we've gotten up to there over the years. And with the No Salvation tour only halfway done, we're not about to let all our fans down who laid down their hard-earned dollars for tickets, and who might want to buy our new album besides." Next tour stops Griffin, Georgia at the good old Peach Pit Arena at Whispering Oaks Fairgrounds. We've played there before, and it's one of our favorite all-time tour spots. You Georgians know how to rock. We'll see you there, green flu or no green flu. You just bring your own badass self and your old lady, and let the writers take care of the rest. Much love, signed, Jake. Apparently this ties in with the in-universe, when they actually did go to the Whispering Oaks and were evacuated via chopper, and when the outbreak got to this area. Unfortunately, the merch store's links doesn't work, and I don't know if it was real or not to begin with. Entry 92, Fan Comics. There are many fan comics and animations created by loving fans of the franchise. Of course, there are way too many to list here, and I've listed some of them before, and I suggest you check them out yourself if you're interested. Entry 93. Nick is a felon or convict. This theory states that Nick is actually a felon or even is an escaped convict who raided a fancy store even robbed someone during the chaos of the outbreak's beginning to change his clothes and put on a facade about being a high roller. He's even referenced it himself. In a couple of dialogue, he calls himself a con man. This was never officially confirmed, but it's highly likely. Originally, he was indeed supposed to be a prisoner who escaped when the zombies infected and killed everyone else in the prison. Entry 94. Survivors in Dead Army. I believe this is referring to the DLC of the Left 4 Dead 1 characters in the game Zombie Army 4 Dead War, where you can play as Bill, Zoe, Francis, or Lewis. There's discussions on whether them being in this game is canon or not, but I'm going with the latter. Entry 95. No female boomers in the first game. This is a true fact. I mentioned it just before, but in the first game only the male boomers are present, and the females version wasn't introduced until the second game. Also introduced in the second game were the Spitter, the Charger, and the Jockey's special infected. Entry 96. Lost E3 builds. I believe this is referring to the cut content from the game, specifically Left 4 Dead 2. There was a lot to cover, but I mostly found stuff about the second one. Mostly about restoring the cut special infected, the Screamer, giving the Hunter his removed actions of climbing on the ceiling, giving the Boomer his original effect of just damaging and its violent explosions being red instead of green, restoring ammo packs, riot shields, didgeridoos, and so much more. There's a lot of mods for them on Steam, so check it out if you want to download them. Entry 97. Jimmy Gibbs Jr. was originally going to be Michael Jackson. Now, I couldn't really find information about if this was true or not, but people online say it was, and during the development of Left 4 Dead 2, Michael Jackson died, so they had to remove his cameo and replace him with an original character. Once again, I'm not really sure if this is true. Entry 98. Left 4 Dead is a meta-series. All other Valve games take place in said universe. This was previously discussed and states that all of Valve's games take place in a single universe, or even that their games exist in their universe. This could also be the case as both Lewis and Ellis reference Valve's different games, most notably Team Fortress 2. Entry 99. Virgil is Alice's guardian angel. I've tried to find information about this, but as you might think, I didn't find anything. But it's still fun to speculate, so let's do it. Perhaps a radio at the end of the Swamp Fever wouldn't pick up anyone because no one was there. Fortunately for Ellis, he had a guardian angel watching and guiding him and the team to safety. The angel finally revealed himself as Virgil, an unseen survivor, who would take him to their desired destination of New Orleans. There, he'd finally depart from the group and Ellis, maybe forever, or maybe until he just calls his name, and he'd appear in a different form to help out the group. Entry 100. The green flu is Armageddon, God's punishment. This theory states that the green flu is actually divine punishment and Armageddon to Earth, unleashed by God for all of our sins. Perhaps it could also mean that the carriers, the ones who are asymptomatic and immune to the effects of the green flu, are God's chosen ones to battle against the Hell Dwellers, the special infected, before Judgment Day. And the last we see of them, the first group sailing away to the Florida Keys, and the second group flying away and leaving New Orleans, symbolizes their ascension to heaven, and thus they are forgiven of their humanly sins and mistakes, and ultimately worthy of being in God's kingdom. Entry 101. Blood Harvest Crashed UFO. I swear I saw something about this in some official description of Blood Harvest, where it stated that originally there was a crashed alien spacecraft that was supposed to appear somewhere in the level, but it was scrapped. I tried to look for it again while researching, but I found nothing about it. If anyone knows where it was, please tell me. Entry 102. Church Guy is a sentient special infected. This explains how Church Guy might actually be already dead and transformed, and that as a special infected, he is sentient, and pretends he isn't to lure the groups of survivors in. He can talk and use a bell to call his friends to kill them, but fails, so shows his true self when the door is open. Fun fact, he has a 50% chance of turning into a boomer, and a 25% chance of turning into either a hunter or smoker. Entry 103. The special infected are a hive mind. This theory states that all the infected work as a hive mind and actually work together to kill any survivors they come across. It makes sense since the boomer knows that by throwing up on them, it will call a horde over to attack. Chargers, smokers, and hunters won't get off of survivors until they are dead or the zombies are killed themselves. Tanks coming to help out the common infected at the end of campaigns to stop the survivors from escaping. Spitters and jockeys hindering the group, and Witch's capability of incapacitating or killing one survivor, giving the team more trouble and less firepower. Tier 5. The Middle Body. Entry 104. Virgil started the outbreak and true origins of the green flu. Once again, I tried to find something about Virgil starting the outbreak, and a topic came up on TikTok, but I don't have TikTok, but I clicked anyway, and it seemed like even there I couldn't find anything about it. All the videos weren't about this topic, but regarding the virus itself, according to the wiki, and as I said earlier, it's actually a previously unseen strain of rabies which has mutated and turned into a zombie virus. Entry 105. SM_generator.4. I've tried to find information about this pertaining to this game, but all I could find was a generator created by Lowell Manufacturing that provides ambient sounds and masking speakers for offices. But what this has to do with Left 4 Dead is anyone's guess. Entry 106. Rochelle Hidden Face Texture. Some people claim that Rochelle's face texture can be found hidden at inaccessible areas and even inside of some of the tanks. I've tried to find things that prove this, but unfortunately I found nothing, so I believe that this is just a rumor. Entry 107. Tank Missile Crisis. This theory states that the tank special infected caused a missile crisis in the Left 4 Dead universe. It appears as if the military only uses missiles as a desperate measure, like to carpet bomb large concentrated hordes, like in New Orleans, bombing bridges to cut off dangerous places, also like in New Orleans, Rayford, and Cutthroat Creek, and even to use them on tanks to kill them. The reason as to why they don't just nuke it is because even in a broken society, they'd be criticized or even attacked by survivors for their brutality, and it's possible that they can't make any more missiles or bombs, thus leading to a shortage or crisis caused by the tanks. Entry 108. Medkit Paradox. I believe this is referring to the fact that the first aid kits in the game can heal the survivors after being severely beaten, torn up, bashed in, to near perfect health, when in reality it doesn't really make sense. What makes the first aid kits into medical miracles? Divine intervention? The fact that carriers' immune systems are different, thus heal faster with certain medications or methods? We may never know. Entry 109. Nick killed Ellis at the end of the parish. This theory states that Nick killed Ellis in the helicopter or the safe haven they ended up in after the events of the parish. I'm sure we all know that this is bullshit, but it would be pretty sad if it were true. Maybe Nick got super tired of Ellis's stories and finally snapped, silencing him forever. Entry 110. Headless survivors are canon. This points to the fact that it appears as your head and lower body disappear when you play as any character. If you look down, your legs are invisible. The only thing you can see, unless pinned by a special infected, are your arms and hands. I'm sure it's just a trick of the camera, as these body parts may be distracting or block vision, and it's obviously not canon that the survivors are just floating torsos with no heads, legs, and only arms. Entry 111, Left 4 Dead Love Shippings. Dear God. As with any piece of media, people have love shippings with the different characters of Left 4 Dead. Popular ones are Ellis and Zoe, Rochelle x Nick, Rochelle x Francis, Zoe x Francis, Ellis x Nick, Zoe x Witch, Smoker x Hunter, Jesus, and a lot more that I really don't want to talk about. The only canon love interests that are known are Ellis and Zoe, Rochelle and Nick, and Rochelle and Francis. Originally, Zoe and Francis were supposed to be in love, but this relationship was scrapped before the final release. Another small fact is if Zoe throws down supplies to the group in the passing and Nick grabs her items, he may call her babe, so it might hint that Nick has a little crush on her too. Entry 112, Francis Lambda on his head. Francis does indeed have a lambda symbol on his head, once again referencing Valve's other game, Half-Life. Entry 113, Witch in Real Life and Proof. I saw the name of this entry, and my mind went straight to a video known as The Blackburn Ghost, where a taxi driver in Pakistan is on a rural road and sees some kind of old hag with long black hair and white clothes begin to limp towards him. She is also holding a cane. As she comes closer and speeds up at some points, the driver yells and cries, but he keeps recording her. Near the end, the figure gives out a guttural woman scream, reminiscent to that of the witch's screams from Left 4 Dead, and begins to run towards the guy. The guy screams in terror, turns around, and floors it, leaving the creature in the dust. There's been debates on what the figure actually is, and if the video is even real or fabricated. But just look at her, she really does remind me of the witch. I'll link the video of it in the description. Entry 114, Helm's Deep Bugs. There's a fan-made level of Left 4 Dead 2 known as Helm's Deep, where the characters fight their way through hordes of zombies in the Helm's Deep Valley of the White Mountains in the Lord of the Rings universe. It appears as if this map and download have a lot of glitches, which were worse before. There have been lots of remasters, but even still glitches persist, and people call it malicious, so perhaps it'd be best to not get this one. Entry 115, Purple Francis. This is referring to a rumor going around the internet around 10 years ago that a Purple Francis figure can rarely be seen in the distance, stalking the survivors, or even a glitch that can happen where Francis will turn all purple. I'm sure we all guessed by now that this is not true. There are mods to turn Francis purple if you'd like, but that's about it. Entry 116, Left 4 Dead 2 Boycott. This one is actually true. Shortly after Left 4 Dead 2 was announced, a lot of people and fans of the first game began to hate on the upcoming sequel and boycott it. They saw it as the fans of the first game and the survivors getting abandoned in favor of this new game, and that the first game would not receive any more updates or content. Fortunately, this turned out to not be the case, and when the second game came out, they also released 2 new DLCs for the first game, Crash Course and The Sacrifice, and later on, The Last Stand. However, people still said they would refuse to play the second game, but eventually, the boycott and hate mob fizzled out, and Left 4 Dead 2 is now known as one of the greatest games ever made. Entry 117, Cut Dark Carnival NPC. Unfortunately, I could find no information about a cut NPC in Left 4 Dead 2's Dark Carnival campaign. But I did find that the finale was slightly different, and that the survivors would have been picked up by the Midnight Riders tour bus instead of a helicopter. According to the wiki and the sound files, Nick can be heard arguing with the tour bus driver to come and pick them up. The concert would be the same, and the bus would have smashed through one of the metal gates to get them. Maybe this is what the entry is referring to. Entry 118, Comchick Controversy. Komchik is an infamous Ukrainian Left 4 Dead YouTuber who posts about solo runs and new fastest records of completing them. Unfortunately, he's been caught cheating in the past by using hacks called God and Buddha mode. God mode being a cheat in which you take no damage whatsoever, and Buddha mode being where you do take damage, but still stay alive even if your health drops to 0%. And he's known to block people who point this out to him, and his world record for the fastest solo completions of various levels have come into question. Entry 119. World War Z was originally a Left 4 Dead movie. This theory states that the movie called World War Z was originally going to be a Left 4 Dead movie, but it was so terrible that Valve and/or Turtle Rock Studios revoked the license to use the Left 4 Dead and left the project. There are a couple things that are vaguely similar to Left 4 Dead, like the military becoming overwhelmed in most of the world, and them setting up safe havens with big walls, I guess. However, this hasn't been confirmed or denied by Valve. Tier 6. Bottom of the iceberg. Entry 120. Lewis Apparition. This is referring to another Left 4 Dead 1 rumor, where an apparition of Lewis's decapitated head can be found in inaccessible areas or out of bounds. This one has not been proven, and it appears to be false. Entry 121. Children zombies. As far as we know, zombified children don't appear in either of the games, even though it would make sense if they did, and there are no scrap zombies, model, concept art, or otherwise that can be seen of them. But there is a theory that the jockey is actually supposed to be a child zombie. I discussed it in my video explaining every zombie in Left 4 Dead video, but I'll do it here again. The jockey may represent a child that mutated by the way it laughs maniacally and quickly runs to the survivors, like a child would to its parents. Furthermore, it hops on the survivors' shoulders and rides the survivors, also like a child does to his parents. This theory has not been confirmed or denied by Valve, so it's still up in the air. Entry 122. Ellis and Zoe are siblings. This one's kinda funny, because it would be weird and gross if Ellis and Zoe were actually siblings and they liked each other, and obviously knew of each other. But I mean, they don't even look like each other. The characters are face models, Jessel McKinney and Sonia Kinski, respectively. Maybe this person could argue that they're half-siblings, but there's no evidence to support this, let alone that they're related at all. Zoe's from Pennsylvania, and Alice is from Georgia. Yeah, this is definitely bullshit. Entry 123. Puppy Experiment. This theory states that the outbreak may have been caused by the government experimenting with diseases on puppies and dogs. Some things that add on to this are the scrap dog special infected, which would have appeared in the second game. More evidence for this is in the intro scene of the second game. In the first couple of seconds, dogs can be heard barking in the distance, hinting to their existence but remain unseen. Entry 124. Hunter's Ellis from an alternate timeline. Yet again, an entry that has no corresponding information. The theory is simple and states that the hunter is from an alternate dimension or timeline and is actually Ellis, who in that universe was not immune and mutated into the hunter. However, there's zero evidence to support this. Entry 125. Anti-piracy screens. Yes, anti-piracy screens are a real thing. Some games have anti-piracy or cheat measures and will change certain things of the game to make it unplayable. Some also have anti-piracy screens, which some people call unsettling. Unfortunately, Left 4 Dead doesn't seem to have any of these measures. There was a single fan-made video of it on YouTube, but that's all. Entry 126. All Valve games are in the Left 4 Dead universe. Already discussed. I already discussed this, but this might be true. All Valve games take place in the same universe, with Left 4 Dead being the game that it all leads up to. Kind of like with CSGO, and the person that they need to take the virus from, the blood sample from. Entry 127. Jockey and Appa from Avatar share the same voice actor. This is a true fact. The voice actor for the jockey is also the same voice actor for the charger and spitter, and the voice actor of Appa from Avatar. His name is D. Bradley Baker, and he has voiced a ton of other characters from various media. Entry 128. Bill's Ghost. Here we go again, at another supposed apparition from a Left 4 Dead 1 character. When Bill dies in the sacrifice, supposedly his voice and his floating ghost can be seen in the passing. Once again, this isn't true, but a few mods exist where you can make it the case. Entry 129. Terror Strike. This is referring to a passion project of the first game made by a bunch of loyal fans. It is a total conversion mod of the first game, where it restores the 2007 builds and fully recreates the experience of the beta design of it. It was released in autumn of 2023. Entry 130. Dubs. Yeah, there are different languages provided for different gameplay of Left 4 Dead. You can switch languages if you have it on PC, but it will only be available in the language you get it from in the physical copies. Like, I live in the America, and I got a physical copy for my Xbox, and it'll only be in English. Entry 131. Zoe is the only survivor to say fuck. I listened to all of Zoe's voice lines, almost an hour of them, and she didn't say fuck one time. Actually, none of the survivors do. Nick and Coach almost say it, but it's cut off before they do. Of course, there are mods which add a bunch of cussing and other vulgar lines.